All right, when you're all ready for me, give me that okay and we can get started. Let's get started with our show. All right. Hi, is this Frank?
Yes, it is. How you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How's the water in there?
Oh, it's fine. It's a little chilly, but I've got a nice wetsuit on, so I'm actually just nice and fine. So
Great. So water's a bit chilly because this is modeled after an actual dive site that's located really, really close to us, right off of the Catalina Island. Anyone heard of Catalina Island? Right? We all know Catalina Island. Has anyone seen Blue Cavern? No? No divers out here. No divers out here. But you can tell us, is this a good representation of that dive site?
yeah, it's very good. It's very good. Blue Cavern looks like this. It has some nice rocky structure. It has all these animals that we see here. It has a kelp forest like we see here. One of the things that it is missing are the animals that live over there in Amber Forest here, because over in Blue Cavern in Catalina, the animals in Amber Forest, the species there would be together here, but we don't do that here because it would be the case that many of the animals in here would actually eat the animals that we have in Amber Forest if they were together in here. That's what they dine on. So that would be kind of fun for the first maybe hour or so for the people out there in the audience, but after that, it would kind of lose its appeal. So basically, other than that, and the fact that, of course, it's a little bit deeper over in the Blue Cavern in Catalina, is very, very close replica.
Right, exactly. So what Frank was saying is that in here there are a lot of the predator fish. So we have the predator fish in here, and in our Southern California and Baja Gallery in the Amber Forest exhibit, we have a lot of the prey fish. Now we don't put those two together because those little prey fish would end up as a nice little snack for some of the larger predators in here. But if you put those two together, that's what you would see out in the Blue Cavern exhibit. So like Frank was saying, Blue Cavern is a kelp forest. So all of this beautiful kelp going up there brings in a lot of different types of fish because they use the kelp for feeding, for hiding in, for shelter, for food. They use it for a bunch of different things. So let's start talking about some of the fish in here that actually use the kelp forest. Now, Frank, I've noticed that you are swimming around with some sharks. How are you feeling? Are you scared at all?
No, these are leopard sharks, and they're not interested in us divers, except they will be at 11 to 15 because that's when we feed them. So when we have food, they care about us. They'll come around because they want to get fed. But other than that, as you can see, they have no interest in us. And to be honest with you, even out in the open ocean, there's like 400 species of sharks. And most of them are about the size of these leopard sharks, and majority of them have not only no interest, you can't even get close to them. They're going to swim away when you get close to them. And even the bigger, larger species, if someone does get bit, it's just an accident on the part of the shark. They just think maybe it was something that they were going to eat, but human beings are not part of the natural diet of a shark, so they never actually bite people intentionally in the sense that they want to, try to eat them or something like that. It's just an accident. So most of the sharks in the ocean, you're very, very lucky if you see them and get close to them, especially if you want to take pictures. It's really hard to get close. I don't think they like the noise of these bubbles myself, but their sharks are, we kill about, I believe, somewhere on the order of about, 2 or 3 million sharks a year we kill just for soup, just for making soup. And so we kill way, way, way more sharks than sharks bite people. So.
Right, exactly. So Frank and all of our other volunteer divers are perfectly safe diving in here with those leopard sharks, which are giving us a great view right now, swimming right along the front of the acrylic window. So those leopard sharks are actually the only sharks here that are hand-fed by our divers. So if you come back for one of our later dive feed shows, you'll see some of our divers actually hand-feeding those sharks, which is a pretty cool thing to see. Now, if we've been to the beach at all this summer, we were probably in really close proximity to those leopard sharks. But as Frank said, they kind of just dart away from us. They're a lot more scared of us than we are of them. So sharks are really important to the ecosystems in which they live because they keep everything in balance. So we do need those sharks. Now, other than the sharks, we also do have some really big fish in here. One's giving us a great view right here. That is our giant sea bass. The giant sea bass is really big, kind of looks like he has spots all over his body. What can you tell us about the giant sea bass, Frank?
Yeah, you can see they're large, and these guys are still relatively young. The largest one we have in the exhibit is the female that's in the back. I'm not sure you can quite see her. She's way back be my right-hand side, your left-hand side in the corner. And when they get full grown, they can be 6 feet long and weigh 400 pounds. So they're going to be very, very large one day. And they're also a spectacular success story because many years ago they were hunted and fished to the point where in California they were disappearing basically. And then in 1982, the state put a moratorium on the catching and or killing of giant sea bass. And they've made a wonderful comeback. They really have. I mean, if you go to Catalina in the summertime, you can see them pretty much on every dive. You'll see 1 or 2 giant sea bass, and sometimes you'll see more, which is really spectacular. Because for long periods of time, you wouldn't see them. You'd be very, very lucky. So they've made a really nice comeback. And we actually have a couple here that we're hoping are going to produce some babies one day. So maybe our aquarium will actually bring forth a new giant sea bass.
Right, we hope so, we hope so. So as you can see, those giant sea bass are pretty slow, really slow moving. They're really big, and they're also really curious. So sometimes they'll swim right up to fishermen, right up to scuba divers just like Frank, and see what's going on. But that got him into some trouble. Since they're so slow moving, a lot of people were fishing for them. They were so easy to catch. Now, because of their big size, a lot of people assumed they were full grown, but they can live up to about 75 years. So even though they're big in size, they are not full grown yet. So people were overfishing them. They weren't giving them a chance to reproduce and get their numbers back up, which is very, very bad. So speaking of overfishing, let's talk about another fish that was overfished as well, which is that white sea bass. So swimming right above Frank's head there, kind of long, silvery. Thank you, Frank. So those are our white sea bass. You might be wondering, they don't look white. What's going on with them? Can you tell us a little bit about them, Frank?
Sure, yeah. Couple things, as you pointed out, they're not really don't really look white. And another thing that's kind of interesting is not really even a bass. They're actually a croaker. But they were introduced to California many, many, many years ago as sport fishing, and they taste really good. But it was the case that the restaurant industry felt that maybe having somebody come in to order a black croaker didn't sound quite as appealing as possibly ordering a white sea bass. So they were called white sea bass, and they became very, very popular fish. And once again, they were caught to the point where their population was starting to get a little dangerously low. So there wasn't a moratorium put on them. Instead, we started growing white sea bass. You may notice in many of our bays and harbors a chain link fence, a rectangular area that's surrounded by a chain link fence floating in the water. Well, below that is a net, and in there are juvenile white sea bass. And when they get to be viable, they actually open the net, they swim out, and they close the net again, and they plant some more baby white sea bass. And that by itself, that program, has been going on about 25, 30 years that I'm aware of. That program has made it so that the white sea bass is a replenishable species, which means that we can fish for it, we can take some of the population, but there's enough left to reproduce to basically replace what we've taken out. So white sea bass is one of the things we can go to the restaurant and order and feel comfortable that we're not depleting the population to a dangerously low number.
Right, exactly. So because the white sea bass were overfished, the Department of Fishery and Game started a hatchery, just like Frank was saying. So those fish are back up in numbers, and they are what we call a sustainable seafood now. So what that means is that their numbers are great. Their numbers are really high. So that means we can fish for them without disturbing their population. So always make your responsible seafood choices and choose sustainable seafood like that white sea bass. Now, we've talked a bit about the animals in here, but let's talk about the kelp forest, the ecosystem in which they live. So, like I said before, these fish rely on kelp for a lot of different reasons. So, feeding, for shelter, laying their eggs, all of that sort of stuff. What else can you tell us about the kelp?
It's a really interesting member of our planet, really, because it's the fastest growing plant, actually the algae, is the fastest growing anything on our planet. It can grow between 1.5 and 2 feet every day. So it grows very, very quickly. Down at the bottom, it has what looks like spaghetti, and that's the holdfast. It kind of looks like it may be a root system, but it's not. It just allows the kelp to anchor itself to the bottom so it doesn't get blown away. And then it has the thing that comes up, the long skinny things are called stipes, and that's what takes them up. And then there's little balls on there filled with gas that makes them float because they do carry on photosynthesis. So they do need sunlight. And then because they grow so fast, when they get to the surface, they continue to grow, and it forms a really nice canopy. So it's really, really nice. And how they feed is they take in nutrients through these, on the surface we would call these leaves. In the ocean with giant kelp, we call them fronds, and that's how they actually eat. They take nutrients in through these fronds, and then with the sunlight, they carry on photosynthesis. So it's also the case that besides having interesting natural history, it's the case that it provides home to many, many animals. In fact, there's 3 different ecosystems it supports. There's one at the bottom where the holdfast is. There's a whole set of animals that live down there. There's a midwater set of animals, which you can see like our half moons and our opalites and so forth, that kind of hang out neither in the canopy nor at the bottom, but just kind of in the mid area. And then there's a whole series of fish that like to live right underneath the canopy, like yellowtail like to do that. So it's 3 complete separate ecosystems, all from this one plant. And in addition to that, we use it because every day most of us use one of the products that comes from giant kelp. So how many people here brushed their teeth this morning?
Did anyone brush their teeth this morning?
Not
Wow,
many.
not that many people, Frank.
Okay, I'm kind of glad I'm on the inside. You guys are on the outside. How many people like ice cream?
Anyone have ice cream recently? Ooh, some more people for ice cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many people put some makeup on this morning?
Anyone use makeup? Yeah?
Okay, so all of those things actually contain a product that comes from giant kelp, and that's algin. And algin is an emulsifier. So basically what it does, things that would normally be too runny to be used, we put that inside of it, and it thickens it up. But one of the things I know that all of you do, that I can tell, is that all of you like to breathe. And one of the things that giant kelp does, it helps convert carbon dioxide back into oxygen. So it's a very, very useful part of our planet.
Right, so not only do the fish use it all the time, as we said before, for food and for shelter and for hiding, but we also use it all the time as well. So because kelp can grow so fast, about 2 feet per day, we do harvest the canopy section, so the top portion of it, and we use it in a lot of our everyday products, just like Frank was saying. So it's found in toothpaste and makeup and ice cream. Because it is so sticky, it's used as an emulsifier that holds all of those things together. So because the fish rely on it so much, and because we rely on it so much as well, we want to make sure that we are doing what we can to protect our kelp forests. So do you have some tips on how we can do that, Frank?
Yeah, one of the things that we can all do every day is just be careful about what it is that we allow to go down our sidewalks or our front lawns or our driveways and end up in the gutter. Because anything that goes into a gutter goes into the storm drain and goes out to the ocean completely unprocessed. So it'd be just as if you went down to the beach and threw it in the water. So, and we can all be careful about our little local area right in front of our house, or, when we get out of our car, we don't let trash fall out of our car into the gutter. Little things like that. If you take the population of Southern California, everybody doing that'll have a tremendous impact.
Right, exactly. So we can all do some pretty simple things every single day, just like Frank was saying. So making sure that we're picking up our trash, not letting it get into our waters and hurting our fish or the ecosystems in which they live. Some other things that we can do are just reducing our carbon footprint, so making sure our waters don't heat up more than they should. So kelp is really sensitive to temperature fluctuations, so we want to make sure that the water stays where it needs to be. So what can we do? We can ride our bike somewhere, take public transportation, maybe even walk. All of those things, if we were all to do them, it would make a great positive impact on ecosystems such as the kelp forest. But you're already doing a great job just by coming here today and learning about our fish and about the kelp forest in which they live. So thank you all so much for joining us here today. Frank, do you have some time to hang out with our guests, take some pictures? All right. So if you'd like to take some pictures with Frank or his diver buddy, feel free to approach the acrylic window now. And go ahead and do so. If you have any further questions, please let me know. My name is Jennifer. I'm from the Education Department. And today we were talking to Frank. He is one of our volunteer divers. Have a great rest of your day here at the Aquarium of the Pacific.